New York City, 1894. Golden light spilled from the tall windows of 35 South Fifth Avenue, a beacon in the winter darkness. Through the frost-covered glass, observers could glimpse shadows of towering machinery, their silhouettes transforming the laboratory into a cathedral of innovation. Inside, Nikola Tesla paused before his latest creation, fingers resting lightly on a metal platform that seemed unremarkable among his more dramatic inventions. His high collar and tailored black coat contrasted sharply with the industrial surroundings, making him look more like a conductor about to lead an orchestra than a scientist. "Ladies and gentlemen," he announced to the small gathering of journalists and society figures, "what you're about to witness will transform our understanding of human health and vitality." A loud cough interrupted him. Mark Twain stood by the door, snow melting on the shoulders of his cream-colored suit, an unlit cigar tucked in his pocket. "Transform our understanding?" He raised an eyebrow. "That's quite a promise from a platform that looks like it belongs in a gymnasium." Tesla's stern expression softened. "Ah, Mr. Twain, perhaps you'd care to assist with the demonstration." "After what happened with your electrical experiments last month?" Twain stepped forward, brushing snow from his sleeves. "I couldn't write for 3 days because my fingers kept twitching." Yet even as he protested, he was already moving toward the platform, curiosity winning over caution. Neither man knew they were about to create a moment that would be remembered long after the snow had melted and the winter night had faded into spring. The story of how these two unlikely friends met begins not in Tesla's laboratory, but in a hospital bed in Paris, 1873. Young Tesla, barely 17, lay fighting for his life against cholera. The doctors had given up hope, but Tesla's mind refused to surrender even as his body failed. In those fevered hours, Tesla's mother brought him books, anything to keep his mind active. Among them was a collection of stories by an American humorist who called himself Mark Twain. As Tesla later wrote in his diary, "In those darkest moments when even breathing seemed too great an effort, I found myself laughing. It was like finding an unexpected light in a bottomless cave." 2 decades later, that light would take human form at a Manhattan literary salon. Tesla, by then famous for his alternating current system, had been persuaded to attend by his friend, Robert Underwood Johnson, an editor who thought the inventor needed to meet people who think about more than electricity. The salon was held in a brownstone on Gramercy Park, its rooms crowded with New York's intellectual elite. Tesla, uncomfortable in social settings, had retreated to a quiet corner with a book when a familiar voice boomed across the room. "What's this I hear about a man who can create lightning?" Mark Twain was holding court near the fireplace, his white hair and mustache as distinctive as his Missouri drawl. "They say he's either a genius or a madman, and I've always found those categories to be suspiciously similar." Tesla looked up from his book. Coincidentally, it was a Connecticut Yankee in King Arthur's court, and found himself face to face with the man whose words had once given him the strength to survive. "Mr. Clemens," Tesla said quietly, using Twain's real name, "your stories once saved my life." Twain's eyebrows shot up. "Well, that's a novel review. Usually people just tell me they couldn't put the book down." He studied Tesla's serious face. "But you're not joking, are you?" "I never joke about literature," Tesla replied, then added with the ghost of a smile, "or electricity." "No electricity and literature." Twain's laugh filled the room. "Now there's a combination. Tell me, Mr. Tesla, do you believe in coincidences?" Tesla considered the question. "I believe in mathematical probability and the precise movement of electrons." "Then how do you explain us meeting here, when I've just finished writing a book about a man who uses science to change the world?" Tesla's answer was interrupted by their host announcing dinner. But as they moved toward the dining room, Twain clapped a hand on Tesla's shoulder. "You must show me your laboratory. I want to see if your lightning is as impressive as your reputation." Tesla, who usually declined such requests, found himself nodding. Perhaps it was time to repay the debt he owed to the man whose words had helped him survive that hospital room in Paris. Little did either man know that this chance meeting would spark a friendship that would illuminate both their lives in unexpected ways. Spring arrived in New York with a burst of cherry blossoms in Madison Square Park. Tesla, taking his daily walk to clear his mind, spotted a familiar figure feeding pigeons near the fountain. Mark Twain sat on a bench, scattering crumbs and apparently talking to the birds. "Are you recruiting them for a new story?" Tesla asked, approaching the bench. "Ah, Tesla," Twain brightened. "Actually, I'm conducting a scientific study on the relationship between breadcrumbs and literary criticism. These pigeons are far more honest than most reviewers." Tesla sat down, watching the birds circle. Pigeons are remarkable creatures. Their ability to navigate using the Earth's magnetic field suggests possibilities for wireless energy transmission. There you go again, Twain chuckled, turning everything into an invention. Can't birds just be birds? Can't stories just be stories? Tesla countered with unexpected wit. Their friendship grew in unexpected places. One rainy afternoon, Tesla arrived at Twain's home on Fifth Avenue to find the writer struggling with a broken phonograph. "Cursed machine," Twain growled, surrounded by scattered parts. "I've written entire novels with less trouble than this contraption gives me in an hour." Tesla examined the device. "Your problem isn't mechanical, it's literary. You're trying to force it to tell a story it doesn't want to tell." Working together, they fixed the phonograph. Tesla explained the mechanics while Twain provided running commentary that turned the repair into an adventure story. By evening, they had not only restored the machine but had recorded several of Twain's short stories on it. "You see?" Tesla said as they listened to Twain's voice playing back. Science and storytelling, working in harmony. Their most memorable collaboration, however, began with a hangover. Twain, suffering from the previous night's celebration of his latest book, stumbled into Tesla's laboratory seeking a cure. "You're an inventor," he groaned, slumping into a chair. "Invent something to make the room stop spinning." Tesla's eyes lit up. "Actually, I've been developing something that might help." He gestured to a metal platform connected to an oscillating machine. "It stimulates blood flow and internal organs through precisely calibrated vibrations." Twain eyed the device suspiciously. "The last time you said precisely calibrated, my hair stood on end for a week." "Trust me," Tesla smiled. "This is completely different." The next few minutes would become legendary in both scientific and literary circles. As Twain stood on the platform, Tesla activated the machine. At first, the writers seemed to enjoy the gentle vibration. "This is rather pleasant," he declared, "like standing on a purring cat the size of an elephant." Then Tesla increased the frequency. What happened next would be retold countless times, each version more colorful than the last. Twain's face transformed from contentment to alarm with comedic speed. "Tesla!" he bellowed, his voice vibrating like a human tuning fork. "Turn it off!" But Tesla, timing his experiment perfectly, waited just long enough for the machine's secondary effect to become apparent. Twain practically flew off the platform, disappearing through the door with remarkable agility for a man of his age. When he returned several minutes later, his hangover forgotten, he found Tesla calmly taking notes. "You," Twain pointed an accusing finger, "are not the gentleman scientist everyone thinks you are. You're a prankster with a physics degree." Tesla looked up innocently. "I merely proved that oscillation can affect human physiology. It's not my fault if the effect was dramatic." Their laughter echoed through the laboratory, two very different men united by their appreciation for life's unexpected moments. Science and storytelling had collided in the most human way possible, creating a tale that would be told and retold for years to come. The summer of 1895 found Tesla and Twain at Delmonico's restaurant, sharing a corner table away from curious eyes. The elegant dining room hummed with the conversations of New York's elite, but the two friends barely noticed, absorbed in their own troubles. "They're calling me a socialist now," Twain said, pushing aside his barely touched dinner. His latest essays criticizing industrial monopolies had sparked controversy. Apparently, questioning robber barons makes you an enemy of progress. Tesla set down his water glass. He never drank alcohol. "And they call me a dreamer because I believe electricity should be free for everyone." He smiled wryly. "Perhaps we're both guilty of wanting a better world." "The difference is," Twain leaned forward, "your dreams light up cities. Mine just stir up trouble." Their conversation was interrupted by a young reporter who recognized them. "Mr. Tesla, Mr. Twain, would you comment on Thomas Edison's latest remarks about alternating current?" Tesla tensed, but Twain smoothly intervened. "Young man, Mr. Tesla is far too busy inventing the future to engage in petty disputes. Though I'd be happy to share my thoughts on the subject, I have several choice words that would make excellent headlines." After the reporter hurried away, Tesla raised an eyebrow. "Choice words? Don't worry," Twain grinned. "I'll only tell him the printable ones." Their friendship offered refuge from public scrutiny, but it couldn't shield them from all storms. When fire destroyed Tesla's laboratory on Fifth Avenue, destroying years of research and innovations, Twain was the first to arrive at the smoking ruins. He found Tesla standing amid the wreckage, staring at the remains of his beloved Tesla coils. The inventor's usual composure had cracked, showing the deep pain beneath. "Everything," Tesla said quietly. "All my notes, my instruments, my projects." "I once lost a whole novel," Twain said, picking up a charred piece of equipment. "The only copy. My wife had built a fire and needed kindling." He set the broken device down carefully. "You know what I learned? The ideas that matter most aren't stored on paper or in machines. They're in here." He tapped his temple. Tesla managed a weak smile. "Did you rewrite the novel?" "No," Twain admitted, "but I wrote a better one. And you, my friend, will build something even more extraordinary." In the following weeks, Twain helped Tesla secure a new laboratory space. He used his connections to arrange demonstrations for potential investors and wrote articles praising Tesla's vision of the future. Meanwhile, Tesla helped Twain understand the new technologies he wanted to feature in his writing, ensuring his science fiction had a foundation in science fact. One evening, as they walked through Madison Square Park after a successful demonstration, Twain suddenly stopped. "You know what makes your inventions truly remarkable, Tesla? It's not just the science, it's the poetry in them. You make people see beauty in invisible forces." Tesla considered this. "And you, my friend, make invisible truth visible through your stories." He gestured to a nearby street lamp, one powered by his alternating current system. "Perhaps we're not so different after all." "Oh, we're entirely different," Twain laughed. "That's why it works. Can you imagine two of me in the world? The human race wouldn't survive." As they continued their walk, the electric lights came on one by one, transforming the darkening city into a constellation of earthbound stars. Each light represented Tesla's dream of universal power, just as each reader of Twain's works carried a spark of his insights into human nature. Their friendship had become its own kind of current, alternating between light and serious moments, flowing between science and art, connecting two brilliant minds that might otherwise have remained isolated in their own worlds. The dawn of the 20th century brought changes neither man had anticipated. On a cold January morning in 1901, Twain found himself climbing the snow-covered scaffolding of Tesla's newest project on Long Island, the Wardenclyffe Tower. The massive steel structure reached toward the sky like a modern Tower of Babel. "Remind me again," Twain called out, clutching his coat against the wind, "why we're up here." Tesla, several steps ahead, pointed to the tower's dome. "From here, we'll transmit power across the globe. Free energy for everyone, Mark, the end of poverty and darkness." "Magnificent," Twain said, genuinely impressed. "But couldn't you have explained this over breakfast? Somewhere warm?" "You wanted to understand the future," Tesla replied. "This is where it begins." But the future proved more complicated than either had imagined. J.P. Morgan's withdrawal of funding threatened to destroy Tesla's dream of universal free energy. Meanwhile, Twain's increasingly critical writings about American imperialism and industry had made him powerful enemies. They met less frequently now, but their conversations grew deeper. One autumn evening in 1905, they sat in Twain's study, surrounded by books and the soft glow of electric lamps, powered by Tesla's alternating current. "I've been reading about your new turbine design," Twain said, handing Tesla a cup of coffee. The inventor had grown thinner, his face lined with worry over the Wardenclyffe project's struggles. "The principles are sound," Tesla replied, his voice tired. "But the investors want immediate profits, not long-term revolution." "Ah, yes, profit," Twain's voice dripped with sarcasm. "The golden calf of our age. Did I ever tell you about my adventures in investing?" For the next hour, Twain regaled Tesla with stories of his disastrous business ventures: the failed typesetting machine, the publishing company bankruptcy, the mining schemes that produced everything except profit. His self-deprecating humor made Tesla laugh for the first time in weeks. "You see," Twain concluded, "failure is just success in disguise. It gives us better material for the next chapter." Their conversations often turned philosophical now. During a carriage ride through Central Park in 1907, they discussed the changing world around them. Automobiles were replacing horses, telephones were connecting cities, and the Wright brothers had conquered the air. "Sometimes," Tesla admitted, watching a motor car sputter past their carriage, "I wonder if we're moving too fast. Technology without wisdom is like lightning without direction." "That's why the world needs both of us," Twain replied. "You light the way forward, and I remind everyone to watch their step." Their last major collaboration came in 1908, when Twain agreed to be photographed in Tesla's Houston Street laboratory, using a new form of electric lighting. The photographs were remarkable, capturing both men in conversation, their faces illuminated by Tesla's wireless lamps. As they reviewed the images, Twain pointed to one where they were both laughing at some forgotten joke. "Now that's real magic, Tesla. Not the lights or the electricity, but the friendship that made them possible." Tesla kept that photograph on his desk until the end of his life. Years later, when young journalists would ask about his relationship with the famous writer, he would point to it and say, "Mark Twain taught me that the greatest power in the world isn't electricity. It's the ability to make someone see light in the darkness." Their friendship had defied the usual boundaries of science and literature, proving that the most important discoveries happen when different worlds collide. Spring returned to New York City in 1909, bringing with it an unexpected warmth for March. Tesla sat at his workbench in his Houston Street laboratory, examining a peculiar device, a modified radio receiver that he claimed could detect signals from Mars. A knock at the door interrupted his concentration. "Still trying to talk to Martians?" Twain's familiar voice had grown softer with age, but his eyes still sparked with mischief. At 74, his hair and mustache were thinner, but his wit remained razor-sharp. "The mathematics suggests it's possible," Tesla replied, then noticed how Twain leaned more heavily on his cane. "You didn't walk here, did you? Took one of those newfangled automobiles?" Twain settled into a chair, catching his breath. "Noisy, smoking monsters. Nothing like your elegant electrical creations." "You aren't well," Tesla observed quietly. "Let's just say I'm conducting an in-depth study of mortality." Twain pulled out a package wrapped in brown paper. "Which is why I brought you this." Inside was a first edition of Captain Stormfield's Visit to Heaven, Twain's latest work. The inscription read, "To Nikola Tesla, who makes me believe science can create more wonders than fiction. Your friend, Mark Twain." "I wanted you to have this," Twain said, watching Tesla trace the words with his finger. "A reminder that even when old friends depart, their stories live on." Tesla set the book down carefully. "I still have that note you wrote me years ago about making magic." "Do you still read it?" "Only on days ending in Y," Tesla replied, surprising Twain with his humor. They spent that afternoon sharing memories, the vibrating plate incident which had grown more outrageous with each retelling, the late-night experiments, the conversations that had sparked ideas in both their works. But there was something different now, a gentle acknowledgement that this might be their last meeting. "You know what I've realized?" Twain mused, watching pigeons gather on the windowsill. Tesla had begun feeding them regularly. "People will remember my stories and your inventions, but they might forget that behind all the books and machines were just two friends who helped each other see the world differently." Tesla nodded, understanding. Like alternating current, the most important forces are often invisible. They didn't know it then, but this would be their final conversation. Twain passed away the following year in 1910. When Tesla received the news, he shut himself in his laboratory for 3 days, emerging only after designing a new lighting system that could change colors based on sound waves. A tribute, he said, to the man who had brought so much color to his life. Tesla lived on, continuing his work despite growing isolation and financial struggles. In his later years, he developed an unusual habit. Every evening, he would walk to Bryant Park and feed the pigeons while telling them stories about his old friend Mark Twain. Passers-by who recognized the famous inventor would sometimes hear him laughing at jokes only he remembered. Their legacies grew in unexpected ways. Tesla's name became synonymous with innovation, his dreams of wireless power and sustainable energy more relevant than ever. Twain's writings continued to make readers laugh, think, and question the world around them. But perhaps their greatest legacy was the reminder that progress needs both dreamers and storytellers, those who imagine the impossible and those who help others believe in it. Their friendship showed that science and art, logic and humor, precision and creativity aren't opposites but partners in illuminating the human experience. Years after both men had passed, a young reporter asked one of Tesla's former assistants if the famous stories about Tesla and Twain were true. "All their stories were true," the assistant replied, "even the ones they made up, because the truth wasn't in the details. It was in the light they created together." Today, when we switch on a light or read a story by lamplight, we're experiencing the intersection of their dreams. Tesla's power flowing through the wires, Twain's words flowing through our imagination. Their friendship reminds us that the greatest innovations aren't just technological or literary, but human. In Tesla's personal papers, found after his death, there was a faded photograph of him and Twain laughing together in his laboratory. On the back, in Tesla's precise handwriting, was a simple note: "The current of friendship, like the current of progress, flows both ways. NT."